In this video, I'm going to show you how you can find more leads for your business. And this typically works for B2B companies, right? So this wouldn't be something great for like an e-commerce type of business, but it does work well if you're like a B2B SaaS and you want to get a bunch of qualified leads for your business. I use this software every day to generate leads for my marketing agency. And I'm going to show you the exact process that I go through in order to book calls and meetings every single week with people who want to hire me. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to need is a software called Dripify. All right, it's dripify.io. This is not a paid sponsorship. I just use them every day, and it's about as good a software solution as I've found. So there's a couple of different tiers here. Let's look at monthly. So I use the Pro. Advanced is basically the only difference is like team management and activity control, which we'll get into more of that in a couple minutes. But basically, you can do 90% of everything in Advanced in the Pro, and it saves you $20 a month. Basic is there's not enough there to justify. Like with that, you might as well spend the extra $20 and get all these extra features. All right, let's jump into my dashboard here. So before we get into scraping leads and building campaigns, I just want to give you a quick little walkthrough of the Dripify backend. And if we go over to the recent activity section here, we can see all of the actions that the software has done for me so far today. This is our stats view. And then we can also go to manage limits. Remember I told you about activity control. So this is where if you just tick that on, it will automatically increase the number of connection requests a day to keep you under LinkedIn's spam filters. If you've never run something like this before and you're not very active on LinkedIn, I would definitely start with 5 per day connection requests and then work your way up 3 requests per day. All right, just so it looks a little bit more organic. And then once you've been running it for a month or two, then you'll be up to that full 75 and you won't get suspended, which I've had accounts get suspended in the past. So it's definitely like a 2-week process and a big headache. We're going to go over to working hours next. Ideally, you would want to set this for normal working hours, just again to avoid suspicion. But I've had this run. I've warmed my account up sufficiently to where I can have this running 12 hours a day every day. And the reason we want to have a 12-hour window is we go back to the dashboard. The recent activity, you can see it only performs, it like manually performs an action every essentially 3 to 5 minutes. So if you're getting to the point where you're sending 75 connections a day and 40 messages, that is 110 actions. Plus, if you're also viewing profiles and things like that, those all eat into your activity. So you want to give yourself enough time in the day where the software is running to actually be able to perform the number of actions that you want it to perform. Let me show you how I scrape the leads. So for that, we need a Sales Navigator account. All right, so we're going to go over here. So far we're into this for, I think my Sales Navigator account is $99. Dripify account is $79, so $178. For essentially, I think we're limited to 200 to 250 connection requests per week, but that's still keeping my calendar full of booked calls. So first thing we're going to do when we're in Sales Navigator, and this is not going to be a full Sales Navigator tutorial, we want to select United States. Or just select your own country. So one thing that I found with this, and especially if your business has a distributed team, I would go based on geography. So when I'm doing a new search, like for myself, I typically stick to, I'm located in Connecticut, so I stick to like tri-state area. So we can actually just do that, narrow that down even further. And so, all right, this is giving us 14 million plus results. Now, we're not going to be able to do a damn thing with that, right? Because in Sales Navigator, you can only export 2,500 of this 14 million person list. And, because we're limited to 75 connections a day, it's going to take us till the end of time to get through that list. So we want to narrow this down even further. We want decision makers, and I'm just making something up here. Let's go CEO. Because when you're finding businesses to contact, you want to talk to the actual decision makers. If you get an HR person or an assistant or an admin, they're going to have protocols in place to like gatekeep and guard the CEO's time. Let's go founder. And so, all right, now just with that, we've narrowed it down to 760,000. Still basically useless. All right. So the next thing I would do is go company headcount, right? So we want people, if you're a software company and you want a shot at, so if you're a B2B company, right? Let's say, well, let's just pick an industry here first, because this works for quite a few industries. Let's go here. Okay, so let's just say you are a fintech company that has some sort of a software for financial services, like stockbrokers, things like that. Now, we've narrowed this down to 50,000 results, right? So now we want to filter by company headcount. So I think that for this example, 11 to 50 employees is going to be 11 to 50 employees is going to be a sweet spot for a lot of people, because if you're anywhere from say 20 to 30 at your company headcount, your revenue is going to be in probably the tens of millions of dollars. So anything less than that, like 1 to 10, you might be more targeting startups, which if that's what you're doing, obviously go ahead, but they may not have the capital to invest in whatever it is you're offering, especially if you're doing high ticket sales, which is pretty much what I use this for. I've just found that 11 to 50 is kind of a sweet spot for me. Anything above that, it's probably going to have to go through multiple decision makers. Like the CEO is not going to be able to necessarily unilaterally order or onboard your software or service or whatever without going through department heads and things like that. And you may get some of that with 11 to 50, but this is just narrowing it down enough to where we can do something with, and it's more for example than anything else. And then what we can do is go second degree connections. Let's see if that, all right, 3.5K, perfect. All right, this we can do something with. Now we want to copy this whole long search. And the cool thing about Dripify is when we go to campaigns, new campaign, first thing we do, we can add in a LinkedIn search from Sales Navigator as long as your Sales Navigator account is linked to your Dripify account. That's not what I wanted to do. So let's go example fintech SaaS. Okay, so just give this list a name, and let's go. So this is the lead list. We're going to get into campaign names at the end here. Fintech. Let's go fintech CEOs or finance 11 to 50 employees, second degree connections. Okay, now we want to select the maximum here, and all right, create list. So next up, now we actually have to build a campaign structure, and I'll walk you through exactly what that's going to look like in a second. We're going to go to custom campaign here. There. All right, now first thing we have to do is send an invite. Now we're going to get into the actual what to put in these messages in a later video. I just want to keep this from being 35 minutes long. So I'll do a subsequent follow-up video for the actual copywriting of this. So we're just going to go 1, save, and now everything on the left-hand side of this little branch this little tree that we're creating is everything that happens before the lead accepts the connection request. All right, and everything on the right-hand side is everything that happens after they've accepted. All right, see right there, boom, still not accepted, accepted. Now there are quite a few things that you can do on this side. I've found that from personal experience, none of them do all that much except for eat up those actions that the software performs every day. And so you end up sending out fewer connections and fewer messages, especially if you're getting into multiple messages. That stuff adds up over the course of weeks and months. If you have people that take a while to accept an invite, and then 15 days later, after you've already sent out 1,000 connections, you start getting acceptances, and you're sending out 40 email or 40 messages a day, and it's going to take longer to go through the campaign than we want. So I typically, I'll just show you in action for the sake of this video of some of the things that are possible. So you can send them an email on InMail. You can view their profile, and the viewing the profile, that's not a bad one because it shows up in their notifications that you view their profile, and then they might be more likely to accept your connection request. You can also like a post. This find email is a new feature, and I think the reason I'm not able to send out connection requests via email is because of a Dripify thing, because they're wanting people to get the new email finder. Basically, these are things you can do. I'll just hit view profile, and then I typically like to leave this going for 20 days just because not everyone checks LinkedIn every single day. And then after this, we are going to end, and then we want to withdraw the request if they have not accepted, and I'll get to that in a minute. Okay, so for number of messages, I typically like to do an invite message and then 2 subsequent messages. So we'll go 1, 2. So for timing, I typically go 1 day and then 2 days, and then I'll let it run for another 3 days before ending the sequence. And then we have to change that. Some things that I've played around with in the past that actually work pretty well is doing your first message instead of 1 day after, you do it 1 hour, so it's like right top of mind, and I can show you how to do that right there. So you can go days or hours, and then follow along in your sequence. And again, you can do as many messages as you like. The only thing is, again, you only can send out 40 or up to 100 a day, and we really don't want to be bombarding people over and over and over with spam. I found that simpler is better for this. Okay, we want to give our campaign a name: finance services, second degree connections. And over here, if you're running multiple campaigns, this is a good idea to not have leads in multiple campaigns, or the same leads in multiple campaigns, because you might lead to some unwanted questions. Hey, you're using automation software, spam complaints, all that stuff. And then if you have that pro version and you have multiple team members on the same account, which is another good way to use this, is have as many people as you want sending out. So that way it just multiplies your outreach efforts for minimal cost. And then they do have webhooks integrations. And then basically what we're going to do is just save and launch. Cool thing, if you have a CRM, right, which you should, you can go through into the leads section. We want to at least filter by people who have accepted invites, because then once they've accepted your invite, then you have their email. See, we have emails. I'll blur these out to not dox these people. But we have accepted invites, and then you can even go through, filter this down even further by, let's say you want to add multiple lists to your CRM, and you can have one for accepted invites, one for people you've messaged and you want to follow up with them. So that's a little bit further down your funnel. They at least know who you are. They've accepted your connection request, and you've messaged them. Maybe hit them again with an email. Hey, just want to follow up on my message, on my DM on LinkedIn. And then probably the most powerful is replied. I haven't figured out a way to segment this based on the no's that you're going to get from this, like people who say not interested, which it is quite a bit, but you do find some gold in here. So that's basically it. I'm going to go over in the next video the copywriting portion. Actually, one more thing to add here. This is also very important. Once you've had this running for a while, you want to be withdrawing invitations in bulk. Again, you're only really allowed to have like 1,500 connections out before you'll get flagged. So I typically like to go every like 800. I'll take away 400 of the oldest, because if they're the oldest ones probably weren't going to accept anyways. So there's no point in just having this thing running and having them clog up space in the available actions. Okay, so that's pretty much going to do it for this one. In the next part of the series here on LinkedIn lead generation, we're going to go over copywriting for Dripify, how to increase your acceptance rate, how to increase your chances of booking a call, and things like that. All right, so make sure you subscribe to the channel for more videos like this, and then obviously leave any questions or comments in the comment section below, and I will see you next time.